continue our discussion on Apple's fix for its iPhone 4 with Ashok Kumar, senior tech analyst at Rodman Renshaw. In a note distributed to clients yesterday, Ashok said Apple would offer a free bumper for the phone, and as we know, as Cris just mentioned, it did that. 10 years ago, he said Intel stock would top out at near $70 a share. It reached almost $75 and went down from there. I'm not quite sure why we're talking about Intel, but it's a Friday and there's a little crazy stuff. Valerio, though, is still with us, too, on the West Coast. Ashok, let's get right to this discussion. You know, Cris mentioned that, Steve Jobs pointing out 0.55% of people have actually called in to complain about this. So 0.5% of the people that are out there, small amount. I mean, do you think everyone, the media, we included, have spent too much time on this Apple problem?
No, one is, I think, stepping back and taking the forest view. Apple is a brand for generations, and the company should have done its utmost to protect it at all costs. And I think this whole antenna gate, as Steve calls it, has been a debacle or a black eye for the company. And even if they had recalled the entire 3 million iPhone 4s that have been shipped, the bottom line impact would have been immeasurable, and it would have done spades in terms of bolstering, the brand of the company from a global consumer perspective.
I mean, the thing is, talk about recall seemed a little bit outlandish to me because this phone drops fewer calls than its predecessor. I mean, it's a better product than the iPhone 3GS, right?
Well, yes, and I think, yes, I mean, the technology yardstick continues to, improve and expand, but I think by comparing the iPhone 4 with an HTC or a Motorola phone, I think the company did itself a disservice because, again, Apple is considered a first among equals. And by comparing yourself to the competition and saying that you're no better in terms of signal quality, you're doing the competition a tremendous favor.
Just to be clear, and let me
Ashok,
maybe
this is Cris.
Cris, I want to ask you a question. They say less than 1% of these phones, of the customers have these problems, Cris, but that's not because the phones themselves are damaged, right? That's just that it happens in less than 1% of the cases because of signal strength, because of the way the person is holding the phone or whatever.
That's the way it seems. I mean, look, here's the bottom line. There were a lot of nuances in this press conference, Matt. It was a lot of specific details trying to prove one point wrong, one blog wrong, one news report wrong. So a lot of nuances that they're trying to clarify. And Steve Jobs himself said, where we screwed up was in not being transparent and not addressing the issues quick enough. And that's something I think that Apple kind of is having to take on itself. But Ashok, I have a question for you. There was an article in the Harvard Business Review coming into today talking about how the issue wasn't so much that it worked or didn't work. It was that the product itself wasn't transformational as many people had been expecting, that Apple as a company is not offering as much from the transformational side. Do you think that is underlying the issues here?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. The competition has also caught up, right? I think you have the classic cathedral versus a bazaar, the cathedral being the closed architecture of Apple, and the bazaar being the Android or the open architecture, which fosters a more interactive community development. So I think the competition has caught up. So I think the quantum improvement that Apple has offered in the past, I think that's no longer clear and present today.
Ashok, what phone do you have? What kind of phone do you have? Cell phone?
No, I have a RIM, because it's dictated by corporate usage, but
right.
But increasing, yeah. So I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go. You're right, because in a corporate environment, I mean, RIM is still the dominant player when it comes to smartphones, although the competition is moving fast in terms of its growth.
Well, absolutely. But I think if you look at the forecasts by various independent organizations like IDC, they expect Android operating systems to grow at a much faster rate, 70% versus 15 to 20% for the Apple operating system over the the 5 or 10 year forecast horizon. So I think the near-term issue is, as was pointed out earlier, the rate of differentiation between an Apple platform and the Android platform continues to diminish, right? So I think, and so from a consumer perspective, it opens up for more alternatives, and a situation like this does not help Apple at all.
So well, we only have 30 seconds left, but you're saying basically that Android is really a true challenger. Unlike the Zune or whatever to the iPod, they really have a shot here at taking some share away from the iPhone.
Well, absolutely. I think in the March quarter statistics, we've already seen that the Android share has surpassed that of Apple. But that being said, it's a very early stage in terms of the opportunity set for smartphones. It's not a zero-sum. Apple is still, very much the incumbent in this market, and it's theirs to lose.
All right, Ashok, thanks so much for joining us. Ashok Kumar there. Also, Valerio joining us from Cupertino, California. It's always a pleasure to have
Always
Cris
a pleasure, you guys.
She's had a front row seat on all of this. Hey, Cris, thanks so much. All right, we're going to head for